My name is Stefani Rice, and I am from Redwater, Texas, more commonly probably known from the Texarkana area. Well, to tell you the reason why I auditioned, I had to give you a little bit of backstory of my life. So I'm from Redwater, Texas. You probably don't recognize the name, and it's because it's itty-bitty. It's a town of 800 people. And I grew up as a preacher's kid, and I always loved music. I started writing songs on piano when I was, 5 years old, and life is a journey, right? And my journey has been one of obstacles and self-discovery. And when I was 18, I decided to be honest and tell the truth, and I came out to my parents. And some people will agree with that decision of being honest or disagree, and unfortunately in this instance, my parents did not agree. So I found myself completely on my own at age 18, and I've been on my own ever since. And I think at that point in my life, I could have gone down a dark path and one of self-destruction, because it's been really easy to do that, I think. And instead, I picked up a guitar, and I started channeling my pain, and I started writing songs. And I really discovered who I was through writing music, and I discovered my voice. I didn't know I could sing like that. And I started doing open mics, and I started a band. And at this point in my life, I've never felt more ready to share with people how powerful music can be, because it definitely saved my life. And I felt that through auditioning, not only could I empower myself to prove to myself that I can do it, but also to show other people that there is a message of hope, and there's a message of positivity, and that you don't have to go down a dark path if you find yourself in a hard situation. For 2 years, while working 3 jobs and doing 2 years of community college, I saved up, I think, $3,000, and I bought a car for $1,000, and I moved to Houston, and I was accepted into the University of Houston, and I completed my biology degree. And I was doing research my senior year and fell in love, and there was something about being on the brink of knowledge of this, but what's next? And something that no one here on earth has ever, discovered. It was so thrilling to be a part of, and to know that this new knowledge could also help people. That was really the fuel to do it. And after I graduated, I began working in a lab at Baylor College of Medicine, and I was involved in a project that involved the HIV virus, and actually in 2015, I became a published author in the scientific journal AIDS. But in April of this year, I made the hard yet easy decision to pursue music full-time. I tried out for The Voice in 2012. And I did not make it. I didn't even get past the first round. And I was upset. And then I felt silly for being upset, because I hadn't really given it my full attention. And I sat and I was self-reflecting and going, well, why am I upset? What have I done besides pursuing something on a national level to get people to hear this music that I think is inspiring? Because that's what I wanted, right? I thought that, this music could, if it helped me, it could help other people. And when that didn't work out, I said, well, what am I going to do about it? And that's when I started a band, and I began gigging all around Houston fiercely. And I went from, doing coffee shops to doing larger music venues there in Houston. And I actually just found out a couple of weeks ago so I recorded an album of all original music, and put it on iTunes and stuff, and the Houston Chronicle, which is the biggest paper in Houston, put it in the top 12 albums of the year. So that was pretty incredible. That was a big stepping stone. But to answer your original question, I did my album release in April, right after I had, quit my full-time job. And I said, okay, so I released an album, the music's out there. what else can I do? I don't want to go to bed at night or get to the end of my days thinking I didn't try everything. And I had kind of forgotten about the voice for, those few years. It's kind of just focused on just, playing at home. And you get one of those emails, that's like, because I was still on their email list, and I remember I was eating dinner with my fiance, and I looked at her and I was like, I think I might try it for the voice this year. And she remembered kind of how hurt I was, like kind of the first time around. And she's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "What do I have to lose?" I said, "I just won't even tell anyone. I'm just like, there's no pressure or anything. I just, it's been 3 years. I'm stronger. I'm a stronger person, not just musically, but just, I know who I am. I have a very strong, self-identity, and I wasn't fearful of getting a no or anything like that. I just thought this would be a great opportunity, and I have to do it because I want to know that I did absolutely everything in my power to, share this message that I find to be so important." And so I tried out, and here I am. I think that I honestly blacked out during my blind audition. I think the word fierce is like the word, and strong is the word that I identify the most with when I stepped on that stage, because you have to be. I mean, it's like, it's the moment, you get that far, and it's like a now or never kind of moment, and it's so intense, and you either look it straight in the eye and say, "I'm going to do this," or you say, "I don't," you cower away. And I looked it dead in the eye and said, "I'm going to do this." And I just let the words they kind of just flew out of my mouth without any, effort. And pretty early on, I believe, I saw Blake turn around. And I thought, you dream about that moment, but then when it actually happened, I felt like I had like combusted or something. I just felt like, oh my gosh, this happened. And then right when I think, okay, get your composure, it's okay, Gwen turned around. And she looked absolutely beautiful. She's just like the most flawless human being that I've ever seen. And on top of all this, I'm also singing a very emotional song. And so it was very hard to keep it together. I just remember thinking, don't break down. Because there was a moment where in my head I said, I think my life just changed. And is this really happening? And it made everything that I've gone through to get to this moment absolutely 100%. It made it all worth it. Some of my favorite artists they're kind of all over the place genre-wise, because I really connect to artists who wear their heart on their sleeve, so to speak, when it comes to lyrics, like the artists who are just so openly raw. And my favorite band is Coldplay. They were the band that I was only allowed to listen to, I was only allowed to listen to Christian music growing up. And Coldplay is a band that kind of infiltrated into my room via, I think, probably my older brothers, and had never heard music like this before. And I just remember thinking like the skies had opened up. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. And I still am inspired by them to this day. I think that Chris Martin is an amazing songwriter, and that his lyrics are beautiful and inspiring. And what he does with his music is just, what I want to do. Same thing with U2. I mean, they are involved with so much charitable work. It's just, you have to look at that with so much respect. And other artists that I feel like I've connected with as Imogen Heap. I really love Imogen Heap. I really love Lana Del Rey. I really love Adele. And a lot, I guess, but those are the ones that come to mind first and foremost. I lived in fear for so many years of my life, and it's so easy to look at something and want to take the easier option. And for the show, I want to constantly look, fear in the eyes and choose the harder option. And it inspires me when I'm able to say, I don't know if I can do it, and then I do it. And then I want that to translate to, you know, the people who may, you know, watch me or you know, hear my story, to be able to share with them that, you know, they can do it too. That it might be scary, but it's totally worth the end product. And Gwen has really given me confidence in my uniqueness. I have somewhat of a unique voice that a lot of people are not accustomed to or have heard a lot. And she really relates to that, and she's expressed that to me, that she, you know, has been told that she has, you know, her voice was so weird, if you will, that, you know, it might not even be marketable, or it might, you know, she might not go anywhere with it. And she's like, you know, well, look what happened. And so she's really given me confidence of just the reassurance of be who I am no matter what, 100%. When I get on stage, there's just no apologies for it. And she's already challenging me. She's already saying, okay, this is how you sing, but what if we make it more impactful by doing this? And it's uncomfortable, and because you've been singing a certain way for so long, and it's, you know, but I told her, I said, you know, while I want to be myself, I also want to grow. And so we're investigating. So I want to explore different areas of my voice that I haven't explored before. And I don't want to be too scared to do it.